In today's video, I wanted to talk about Bitcoin's realistic path to $13 million per coin. And while I don't like making specific price targets on Bitcoin's price per coin, it's a lot easier to look at this chart that I'm going to show on the screen. This is my favorite chart to try to show people when trying to understand Bitcoin and its future potential. And that is Bitcoin compared to other assets by market cap. And so today, there's about $1,000 trillion worth of global wealth stored in different assets, or 1 quadrillion. And that supply is constantly increasing, right? And that's constantly more capital, more liquidity is being added to the system, which is more potential value that can flow into Bitcoin as a store of value. And as you can see on the chart, Bitcoin is still a tiny little square at only $2 trillion. Then you have assets like bonds, over 300 trillion, real estate over 300 trillion as well, equities over 100 trillion, and then you have just money supply over 100 trillion, which is just checking accounts, savings accounts, stuff like that. And yeah, basically Michael Saylor's model when predicting Bitcoin's price in the future, his model assumes that half of this value on this chart is simply just looking for the best store of value for the long term, just looking for the best place to park wealth for the long term. And eventually people will realize that Bitcoin is the superior form of savings technology, the best store of value asset, and capital will naturally flow from those assets into Bitcoin. And even if Bitcoin isn't stealing a bunch of market cap from these other assets, more liquidity being added to the system, like this chart, the total was just 900 trillion in 2023, and that's increased by 100 trillion, and that 100 trillion gets dispersed into the different assets, and naturally some of that obviously is going to go to Bitcoin. So that's just like the base case of money flowing into Bitcoin. Because more dollars are created, more dollars are now chasing the same amount of assets, the same amount of Bitcoin, so they're going to flow into Bitcoin. And yeah, so with that model of half of this asset class is looking for just the best place to store wealth for the long term, then they will naturally shift into Bitcoin. And what Michael Saylor is doing at Strategy, formerly MicroStrategy, is basically they're creating a giant pump, and they're pumping cash, pumping value from these legacy assets like bonds into Bitcoin. They're giving people Bitcoin exposure whether they like it or not. And that's, taking value basically from bonds and from equities and pumping it into Bitcoin through their Bitcoin treasury company. So by Saylor's model, he is predicting that by the year 2045, that 7% of global wealth will shift towards Bitcoin. And that puts us at a market cap of $280 trillion, which is an 140x from here at around $13 million per coin. And this isn't a crazy, prediction. It's not a crazy bullish case, because Bitcoin is simply the best store of value. Like it's factually true. It has all of the properties that make it a superior store of value. And that's why people are fleeing towards it already, and they will continue to do so. And Bitcoin treasury companies like Strategy will continue to pump capital into Bitcoin, whether people like it or not. Strategy is also approaching S&P 500 inclusion, which is just more passive capital that's going to flow into Strategy and flow into Bitcoin directly, whether people like it or not. Even the people that hate Bitcoin and own the S&P 500, they're getting exposure to Bitcoin, and they're fueling Michael Saylor's project to buy as much Bitcoin as possible because they own the S&P 500. And when they do that, those funds naturally have to allocate to every stock in the S&P 500. So that's passive capital flowing into Strategy, which funds their ventures to buy more Bitcoin. And it's a reflexive flywheel. Additionally, one of Strategy's products, Strife, is a fixed income instrument that is pumping money from the $300 trillion bond market into Bitcoin. It's a competitive financial product that is directly competing with the fixed income market. And yeah, it's their most senior product, meaning it takes priority over their common stock and their preferred stock. So it's the safest store of value. So these people just looking for fixed income can turn towards Strife, which is offering like some of the best rates in the market. And it doesn't have as much of the upside of Bitcoin, but that's, people don't care about that. The people that are holding these bonds are just looking for, slow, steady, safe, fixed income. And that's what Strife is providing. And the more people that buy this product, they're funding more Bitcoin purchases, funding more capital flowing into Bitcoin, which is just super cool to think about. And yeah, I'll just always show this chart off to people because it's just such a great visualization. When you just think of Bitcoin at 100K per coin or whatever, like it's hard to really conceptualize where that sits among the world's assets, but looking at this chart and really studying it and what it means can bring your understanding to the next level. And understanding Bitcoin's future potential. And then, just today, just think about Bitcoin at 2 trillion and gold at 22 trillion. Bitcoin is simply superior digital gold. Like, we should already be at the market cap of gold, and that's a 11x from here, which is just crazy. Bitcoin is digital gold. It's better. It has all the superior monetary qualities that gold doesn't have. Like, you can travel anywhere in the world with your Bitcoin in your brain. You can just travel anywhere with your seed phrase memorized if you wanted to, and you can travel with $1 billion worth of value, or however many Bitcoin that is. You can just travel the world with that and stored in your brain. You can't do that with gold. You can't. It's so hard to transport. It's so hard to keep secure. It's so hard to verify, which are all properties that Bitcoin beats it. Like, gold is a horse-drawn carriage while Bitcoin is a Formula One car. Like, there's no comparison. We should already be at $22 trillion market cap, but people haven't done the research yet. People aren't educated about it yet. So that's why today there's such an amazing opportunity to accumulate this asset before most of the population even understands what it is at a basic level. Yeah, and then I guess we can also talk about real estate, right? Real estate, over $300 trillion worth of value parked in real estate. And this isn't going to be the case for much longer. When people realize Bitcoin as money is a store of value, is a superior store of value to real estate, right? To store your value in Bitcoin, all you have to do is buy it and keep it secure with your private keys. To have real estate as a store of value, it requires so much maintenance costs, property taxes, inspections, all these things. You have to constantly be maintaining it, and it costs a lot just to maintain it. Bitcoin doesn't cost anything just to hold it. It just stores value. That's what it does, and that's what it was designed to do. So real estate will start to be demonetized in the same way gold will start to be demonetized, because there's no need to have gold as a monetary asset. It'll just be a production metal. And the same thing with real estate. I talk about this a lot in my videos, but it's important to understand that the only reason real estate is such a big store of value for people is that the dollar is broken. The dollar doesn't hold its value. So people seek real estate as the next best thing to be something to store their value in. And like I say, on a Bitcoin standard, when the money retains its value, and the money that everyone uses is money that keeps its value and grows in value over time, then when you buy real estate, when you buy a home, all you will be paying for is paying for the materials and the cost of labor, which those are things that will always go down over time. But the reason home prices are going up so much is because it's a store of value and it carries a large monetary premium. You're paying such a premium on top of just the labor and material costs because it's seen as a good store of value by everyone. And so you're paying extra basically for the home's ability to maintain and grow your wealth against the depreciating dollar. So that monetary premium will continue to decrease. And you can see that a home price in Bitcoin, a home price in a deflationary currency, the home gets cheaper and cheaper. You can see that. You can go to price in Bitcoin 99 and see different assets priced in Bitcoin, and you'll notice that every asset gets cheaper in terms of Bitcoin when you save on a Bitcoin standard. So yeah, that's a little bit about the path from Bitcoin to today to hit $13 million per coin. And even then, it'll still be a good store of value and still be the best place to store your value. And it'll still grow from there at $13 trillion per coin, or $13 million per coin, sorry. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions, comments, leave them down below. Like and subscribe so more people can see this message. And as always, together, let's work, save, and build a brighter future with Bitcoin. See you in the next video.